diving back into Spiderhead. We're met with escalated stakes in a dystopian realm filled with moral dilemmas, scientific overreach, and deep human emotions. This story delves into the extremes of control and the resilience against manipulation, challenging our views on freedom, love, and science's ethical limits. Jeff and Lizzie's battle for survival turns into a search for meaning and redemption in a world of chemically induced emotions, highlighting the importance of genuine connections. Their discoveries force us to ponder our own technological and ethical boundaries. This isn't just a recap, but an invitation to question human autonomy, morality, and freedom in a monitored society. Join us as we explore these themes in Spiderhead, encouraging discussions on the essence of being human amidst technological control. And so, the situation spirals out of control when Heather, in a state of fear-induced frenzy, damages the box, causing all substances to flood her system uncontrollably. The chaos escalates as the scientists find themselves helpless, unable to remotely halt the onslaught of compounds. In a desperate, tragic turn, Heather, overwhelmed and in pain, injures herself with a shard from a chair. The scene descends into a nightmare, with the scientists powerless to intervene, marking a dark chapter in the experiment's history. In the midst of the chaos, as Steve hurried to assist Mark, his keys slipped from his grasp, unnoticed by him, but spotted by Jeff. Seizing the opportunity, Jeff delves into Steve's desk, unearthing paperwork that unveils a startling truth. The entire operation is spearheaded by Dr. Steve himself, devoid of any higher management oversight. Among the records, Jeff discovers a list of substances, with special emphasis on numbers 40 and 6, indicating these two drugs are the primary focus of their experiments, with the others essentially serving as trials leading up to these. Realizing the gravity of what he's uncovered, Jeff swiftly reorganizes the desk to its original state, ensuring no trace of his snooping remains. Just in time, as Steve bursts back into the office, Jeff is found nonchalantly sitting, the keys casually placed on the floor, allaying any suspicion from Steve. The doctor glances around, his gaze landing on Jeff, but nothing seems amiss. Unaware of Jeff's newfound insight into the true nature of the experiments, Steve continues on, oblivious to the fact that Jeff now holds a piece of the puzzle that could change everything. In the cover of night, Steve and Mark undertake a grim task, erasing any evidence of the day's catastrophic events. Steve, with a persuasive tone, impresses upon Mark the critical need for silence. The survival of their entire operation, the prison itself, hinges on their discretion. Mark, visibly conflicted, ultimately concedes, his loyalty to Steve outweighing his moral reservations. After ensuring Mark's silence, Steve turns to soften the blow of the day's events for Jeff, dropping the bombshell that Heather didn't make it. He frames the tragedy as an unfortunate but necessary sacrifice in the pursuit of a greater good, urging Jeff to see the silence as a contribution to their noble cause. Then, in a twisted attempt to distract Jeff from the horror and guilt, Steve introduces him to new supplements, designed to artificially uplift their spirits. Amid the laughter induced by these drugs, even the most sorrowful memories turn into jest, showcasing the eerie power of their experiments. As the effects begin to wane, Steve draws a parallel between them, suggesting a bond akin to friendship. Jeff counters, highlighting the stark difference in their freedom or lack thereof. Steve, in a rare moment of vulnerability, confesses his own entrapment, not by bars, but by his unyielding passion for his work, admitting that beyond these walls and experiments, he has nothing else. This exchange reveals the complex web of dependency, ambition, and isolation that binds both the captor and the captive, each prisoner to their own circumstance. As dawn breaks, Steve and Mark are back at it, diving headfirst into their next venture, a drug that triggers phobias. Lizzie, the unwitting participant, finds herself inexplicably terrorized by an innocuous stapler. The experiment concludes, leaving her rattled but unharmed. Post-experiment, the atmosphere shifts as Jeff and Lizzie delve into a deep conversation. They ponder the strange trade-offs of their current predicament, whether the semblance of freedom and the perks like corridor walks and copper cooking pots justify the psychological toll of the experiments. It's a moment of reflection on their circumstances, comparing this prison to their past confinements. The conversation takes a more personal turn when Lizzie inquires about Jeff's past. With a heavy heart, Jeff opens up about the tragic mistake that haunts him, a drunk driving accident that claimed the lives of his closest loved ones. In a gut-wrenching recount, he describes the fateful night, the crash, and the irreversible consequences. It's a moment of raw vulnerability, shedding light on the guilt that weighs on him. Lizzie, in a gesture of understanding and forgiveness, suggests that the decision to get in the car was collective, implying that the blame shouldn't rest solely on Jeff's shoulders. Their conversation culminates in a kiss, a moment of connection and solace amidst the chaos of their lives. Together, they retreat to the bedroom, seeking comfort in each other's presence after confronting such painful truths. Afterwards, life in Spiderhead continues, as they find themselves back in the kitchen, a semblance of normalcy in their otherwise tumultuous existence. This moment of domesticity, following such emotional revelations, underscores the complexity of their situation, caught between the harsh realities of their environment and the human need for connection and forgiveness. Steve, ever the observer, senses the deepening bond between Jeff and Lizzie. His realization is further confirmed when he spots a drawing of Lizzie on Jeff's desk. Intrigued and perhaps inspired by their connection, Steve doses himself with N40, his mind buzzing with the possibilities for his next experiment. This time, he wants Jeff to inject Lizzie with the fear serum, pushing Jeff to a moral brink. For the first time, Jeff stands up to Steve, vehemently refusing to subject Lizzie to the fear-inducing drug. His outburst marks a turning point in their relationship, with Steve attempting to pacify the situation by suggesting a pause, giving Jeff time to reconsider. As the day ends, Steve manipulates Jeff's emotions, leveraging his feelings to grant him leave. This exchange underscores the power dynamics at play, with Steve still holding the reins. Later, Mark seeks out Jeff under the guise of medication refilling. Behind closed doors, a crucial conversation unfolds. Jeff, leveraging what he discovered from Steve's files, confronts Mark with the truth: that Steve is the puppet master behind their dire circumstances. Jeff's appeal to Mark's better nature, coupled with the revelation that Steve's promise of changing the world has morphed into something far more sinister, sparks a moment of clarity between them. United by a newfound resolve, Jeff and Mark hatch a plan, aiming to set it in motion with the dawn. This alliance, born out of desperation and a desire for redemption, sets the stage for a confrontation with the darker aspects of human experimentation and control. Jeff's next visit to Steve's lab is tinged with an unexpected twist. Mark is out, claiming illness. The stage is set for what Steve declares will be the final fear experiment on Lizzie. With the responsibility thrust upon him, Jeff approaches Lizzie, phone in hand, his resolve against using the fear substance on her stronger than ever. Steve's frustration boils over as Jeff's refusal disrupts his plans. In a moment charged with tension, Steve attempts to manipulate the situation by unveiling the reasons behind Lizzie's incarceration. Lizzie, showing remarkable bravery, urges Jeff to proceed, trusting him implicitly. But Jeff, in a daring move, reprograms the device and redirects the fear substance towards Steve. As Steve grasps the betrayal, his attempt to regain control is crippled by his own burgeoning fear. Unbeknownst to Steve, Mark, far from being sick, played a crucial role in the day's events. He had swapped the substances in Steve's container, introducing B6, a drug compelling obedience. Jeff watches as his theory unravels before him. The myriad of drugs, the experiments, none of it mattered. B6, the true linchpin of control, now holds Steve in its grip, turning the tables and leaving him vulnerable to his own creation. This pivotal moment not only exposes the depth of manipulation within the facility, but also marks a significant shift in power dynamics, as Jeff and Mark's covert alliance brings Steve face to face with the consequences of his actions. With the tables turned, Jeff confronts Steve, leveraging the truth-inducing power of B6 to unearth the sinister motives behind the experiments. Steve, cornered and under the influence, confesses a harrowing vision: a world where humanity acts in blind obedience to a perceived greater good, dictated by those in power. The revelation that Jeff and Lizzie were technically free, Jeff for 7 months and Lizzie for a week, underscores the depth of deception and manipulation at play within the prison's walls. In a desperate bid for control, Steve attempts a violent retaliation but is thwarted by the inherent safeguard of B6, its inability to compel harm against loved ones. This brief moment of vulnerability allows Jeff to disarm Steve, but not before Steve can make one last vindictive move against Lizzie, injecting her with a fear-inducing substance. The ensuing chaos sees Jeff in a frantic struggle to save Lizzie, culminating in a heartfelt confession of love as he purges the drugs from her system. Meanwhile, Steve's last-ditch command to the inmates, delivered via the prison's PA system, paints Jeff and Lizzie as threats to their precarious stability, prompting a tense confrontation. Despite the inmates' initial compliance with Steve's orders, Jeff and Lizzie's resolve carries them through, escaping the compound as Steve attempts a desperate flight from impending police capture. However, his escape is marred by disorientation and impaired judgment, courtesy of the chaotic drug infusion administered by Jeff. Confronted by the looming presence of law enforcement and captivated by a fleeting moment of beauty, Steve's final act is one of catastrophic despair, crashing into the mountainside. Jeff and Lizzie, their faces lit by the first light of freedom, make their escape on a boat, leaving behind the dark confines of the past. The water beneath them seems to carry away the heavy burden of their trials, each wave a promise of a fresh start. In Spiderhead, we're taken on a harrowing journey through the eyes of Jeff and Lizzie, two prisoners entangled in a web of psychological experiments that blur the lines between control, freedom, and the essence of human emotions. Set against the backdrop of a futuristic prison overseen by the manipulative Dr. Steve, the movie challenges us to question the morality of using science to manipulate the human psyche for the so-called greater good. As Jeff and Lizzie navigate through trials that test their resilience, trust, and love, they uncover the dark truths behind Spiderhead, leading to a gripping escape that symbolizes a rebirth from the ashes of their tormented pasts. This cinematic experience is not only a thrilling ride, but also a profound exploration of the human condition, the power of love, and the indomitable spirit to overcome manipulation and control. It's a reminder of the dangers inherent in playing God with the fabric of human emotions and the ethical dilemmas faced by those who tread that path. If you found this summary intriguing, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more thought-provoking movie summaries and discussions. Now, I want to leave you with a question that's been gnawing at me. In a world where technology continues to advance at an unprecedented rate, how do we draw the line between scientific innovation and ethical responsibility? Can the pursuit of a greater good justify the manipulation of individual free will? Drop your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Let's start a conversation about where we stand on the fine line between control and freedom in the name of progress. Your insights are what make this community amazing, and I can't wait to read what you have to say. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep questioning, keep seeking, and keep watching.